You're listening to Welcome to Eloma, a podcast for highly ambitious dreamers who get shit done. I'm your host, Kiley Peters. This is a space where we talk about balancing relationships and entrepreneurship. So for all the entrepreneurs listening, I'm confident that you'll agree it's difficult to balance a relationship while building your business. I can't tell you how many nights my now fiance has asked me to stop working at 8:30 at night and come eat dinner with him, or other nights where he'll just hand me a plate of food at my desk and just walk away. And how it's so difficult to shut it off and be present when spending time with loved ones, and how it can also be so lonely because no one really understands unless they're in similar shoes. So that being said, I'm super pumped to dive into this topic with today's guests. Joining us today is a relatively newly married Alli Webb and Adrian Koehler. Alli is a serial entrepreneur. She has her hands in a number of different businesses, but she's most well known for being the founder of DryBar, successfully exiting DryBar, and is now the president of Canopy, a reimagined humidifier. Adrian Koehler is one of the best leadership and executive coaches I've ever witnessed and works with executives and entrepreneurs as a senior partner with Take New Ground. I had the great fortune of meeting these two earlier this year at a workshop in Nashville, the Impact Series. We connected briefly again when Alli was speaking at the No Summit in Scottsdale in May of this year. And then I saw Adrian again when I went through the Revenant in Nashville again in June. So our paths have just kind of crisscrossed all year long. I've loved watching these two share their entrepreneurial journeys while also sharing their unwavering and very authentic love for one another and the blending of their families. So Alli and Adrian, I'm a big fan of both of yours. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm thrilled to welcome you to Eloma. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so let's get into it. You're both successful entrepreneurs. You've both been through divorce together, and you got married in May of 2022. What key conversations did you have when you first started dating that set the tone and expectations for your personal and professional lives? Just coming out of the gate. Here we go.
Well, I think Adrian and I kind of came from we had similar stories, and, we were both, I guess, like probably most people, came out of bad marriages, and not, terrible, but bad marriages where just, we couldn't make it work with our exes and whatever. And, Adrian specifically we were actually just talking about this last night, was really honest with what he had gone through, and it's his story to tell, but it was, a really huge life change in a lot of ways. And, really, like, on our first date, gave me, probably more information than I wanted about that.
I've heard about that. Yep.
Yeah. But, we were talking, and we already really liked each other, having not met yet. And then, he kind of just laid it all out, in this very honest way, which, felt like the right and fair thing to do, because at that point I could have said, this is too much for me or whatever, without either of us getting really hurt. So, I think to answer that question foundationally, I think our relationship has been really built on transparency and honesty. And I think that shows up in a lot of different ways. And, I think that we are a natural kind of fit to work together professionally, based on the fact that he coaches, founders and crazy people for a living. And I am one of those founders and maniacs that still could use his skill set. And I do take advantage of his skill set often. So, there's such a beautiful, like, intersection in this, between what we both do and who we are and how we relate to each other, that I think has really made the relationship work.
Yeah. I think your question initially was around,
did I not answer it?
How we balance both our relationship and our business ventures. Let's get to that. But since we alluded to the first part, I think it's probably worth talking about, like, integrating how do you make a new relationship work? Well, you better get to closure on the first one. Otherwise, you're just going to go do the second. You're going to do the first one again over here. And what she's alluding to was like in the first date, I knew that I'd been through quite a transformation process by the time we met. And it wasn't like on accident. It was very much on purpose to get myself straight. And that was like drinking and womanizing and tons of mess. Debauchery. Yes.
Debauchery.
Debaucherness. A lot of debaucherness going on.
KSN debauchery. There you go.
Yes.
Debauchery.
Anyway, a lot. And I was a mess internally, right? I mean, nobody drinks like that. Nobody acts like that unless they're going through a lot and they don't see much hope. So I had gone through about a 3-year process of getting myself back and really reinventing myself. And so whenever we came together, this is on the personal side of your question. I knew that I was committed to being who I am now. And I knew that I had done a lot of work on not being the guy that I was.
Yeah.
And I knew that in any kind of new serious relationship, I wanted her both to know where I'd come from and then to know what I'm about. And because I don't want any surprises, number one. And number two, I don't want to live in any shame, like there's any secrets in the past, because I don't carry it with a bunch of shame and regret and all that.
Sure.
But I also wanted to know that she could handle it in that way. And that's pretty unhuman to like accept somebody. Normally we're, as humans, we're looking out for trouble. And if somebody has done something, oh, watch out, they're going to do it again. That's kind of Freudian number one, looking out for trouble kind of. Anyway, I don't live that way. I don't want to live that way. So anyway, that's why on the first night, it was letting her know who I am and then seeing who she would be in reaction and response to that. So anyway, that's kind of on that a little bit more meat on the bone for the listeners about what that really was about.
Yep.
And then, I think just to add to what you're saying, when we came together, we were really excited about our passions and, our attitudes in the world. And both of us are pretty fast movers. Both of us like meeting new people, like new ideas, very much like new things. And are big into getting to know folks. And when I met Alli, she had like a long list of stuff that was like cooking, lots of shit on the stove of all these possible things that could happen, which is very exciting. And I knew that like being involved with Alli would be to be involved with all that, and so, which was exciting for me and who I am and what I'm about. But also at the time was really wrapping up DryBar stuff and throttling that down during the initial part of our relationship, which did create a bunch of space in the relationship for her. A lot of space in her calendar. And then COVID hit 5 months into our relationship as well. So it's like a very, other dimension type experience. So, and I'm building my company. We're 4 years into our company. So it's like pedal down, a lot of time, a lot of meetings, I tend to get a lot more clients than I ought to. Like I tend to I like the process of getting clients, and then I have to coach them. Oh man, that's a lot of time. So, how do we balance this? It was hard at times just because she had kind of made it in like the eyes of lots of people with, as you said, successfully exited DryBar, and it was looking out on like this frontier, and there wasn't a lot of stuff there built yet. There's lots of plots of lands, if we follow the metaphor, but there's no buildings out there yet. Like nothing to go into and go do yet. A lot of things that she was busy talking about. And anyway, there was some tension baked into that because she had made it, and her assumptions was after she made it, it's like time to go have fun. And I'm like, hey, I'm where you were 10 years ago when, in the beginning stages of DryBar, which she was pedal down nonstop, airplanes all the time. So it was it was an ongoing conversation, and she supported me and loved what I was doing, loved me and loved the impact I was making on people, but it was hard, right? Mm-hmm. You want to share about that?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask, you guys, I think it's one thing to be in a relationship and both be entrepreneurs, but Adrian, as you just touched on, being entrepreneurs at different places in your journey, like Alli, I can totally see how you'd be like, I've busted my ass for, a decade or however long. I'm tired. And Adrian's like, yeah, but I'm excited to go. Like, yeah, Alli, tell me about like what that has been like for you.
Well, exactly that. I think it was also a big transitional time for me in like figuring out who I was now and what I was doing. And yeah, there was a lot more time. And you know, we always kind of Adrian doesn't believe in this like lonely at the top thing, but
I do.
I believe that it's an experience. It's a phenomenon that happens. It's not a prison cell that everyone has to sit in.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I don't think of it as even necessarily. I mean, I guess it does sound negative, but I mean, it's more like, there's not as many people that, have, and I want to say this carefully, like there's a ton of successful people, but it's a smaller group of people who've like, which I only even recently realized because I've had, I had so many people coming to me wanting to, pick my brain or talk to me about their business or like a lot more recently, like, you're somebody who made it to the other side. It's hard to make it to the other side. It's hard to actually exit a business successfully. And so there's a lot of people wanting to talk to me about that who are on both sides of it. But what I find is that there are, you're just in a different realm now of like, who am I, and my identity has been wrapped up in DryBar for so long that, figuring out what's next, and what's fulfilling to me has been really hard. And then, to Adrian's point, like having so much time and space and wanting to be like, let's go travel and let's go see the world. And, which is kind of what I wanted to do within moderation. My kids are still in school, so it's not like I'm going to be gone for months at a time, but it definitely, he wasn't and isn't in that same space. So, I mean, relationships are like full of sacrifices up and down, right? And for me, it was like, this is not, I mean, there's lots of things about our relationship that weren't the perfect fit. I mean, it's also been challenging, which I've talked about, going back to having little kids, like my kids are practically grown, so, but, ultimately the love that we have for each other and the kind of man that he is and all of those things, kind of superseded the, we're not going to be traveling quite as much. Although I have like finagled him into lots and lots of trips, and we do.
I've been watching you guys. You're bouncing around a little bit
because I say to him, "Listen." I say to him, I just would thought they'd edit that out. You like
so I was planning on you keep talking, and it would fit in.
Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. Like we what was I going to say? Oh, when I do, so I'm very much, hey babe, let's like go here for the weekend, or let's go check this thing out. And let's just like jump on a plane and go, and he's on calls back to back most days. So I'm always like, we can be in another country or another city and you can be on a call in our hotel room.
Yep.
That works for me. And truthfully, that is in all seriousness, something that we've done, and I've said, listen, if we go somewhere and you need to take a couple of calls, which I will too, because I think that's another part of even your question is like that balance. We both work constantly, even when we're away. And it's not because we feel like we have to, it's because we want to, for me, I've always been like that. I've always felt like, even if I go away and sure, you're pulling back 100%, but you're also, for me, it's like, I'd rather stay somewhat connected. So I don't come back to like a shit show of so much stuff, fighting to get back. So I think that's worked for us too, is like, I'm able to get, scratch that itch of wanting to go more places and do more things, as long as I'm okay with him, taking calls and not being like 100% available to me on those trips.
So what I'm hearing you guys say is a lot of transparency, a lot of being really clear on what you want and finding creative ways to make that work. Now, Alli, you had just mentioned something that I want to kind of dive into just for a second, because I think this is relevant to a lot of people in a lot of different situations. You had mentioned that after you exited DryBar, you're kind of in this space of like reinventing yourself, kind of trying to figure out who you are. And I think especially in entrepreneurship, we find ourselves in that space often of trying to figure out, who am I? What am I doing? And I'm curious, I'd love to hear from both of you, Like, Alli, what has that space felt like for you? And then Adrian, how has it been to be the significant other witnessing your significant other struggle in this way? I'm just curious.
That's a good question. Yeah, it's been really challenging to feel again like this, my identity has been wrapped up so much with DryBar and trying to, move on from that really and
Mhm.
try other things and experience other things. And it's chock full of like insecurities and doubt and like, will I always only be known and liked for the fact for what I did with DryBar, which is like a double-edged sword, because I'm so proud of that. And
Oh, for sure.
I love that that's my legacy, but I also want to figure out, where else I can make a mark, a stand, which is,
Mhm.
part of like why we've been doing the Impact series where we met
Yep.
you. I mean, it's like, I feel definitely a calling to give back. And I really enjoy speaking, which I do a lot because I love telling my story. I'm really proud of my story and all that I've accomplished, especially in a, a more like, hey, I didn't go to college. I don't have a traditional degree or background or pedigree to do what I did, which I think is it can be really inspiring to people who
Yeah.
feel like they're in that camp. But so I'm trying to parlay all the information and all the experience I have into things that are helpful to other people and something that I really like and enjoy doing. But it's also, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't mixed in with like, feeling irrelevant or feeling unimportant. And, and we live in such a culture of FOMO where we're seeing other
Yes.
people doing other things. And you're like, well, shit, why didn't they ask me to do that? And, and yet I get asked to do tons of things and I have amazing opportunities coming at me all the time. But then there's that thing where you're like, but why didn't they think of me for that? So it's a really mixed bag, this point in my life. And, things like Canopy and that I've done that have like really appealed to me, that have felt really authentic and organic to get involved in are, the things that I'm really focusing on. And really, I'd say the biggest like thing for me that I feel like now is like, I'm in this space of having to say no to things. Cause I'm, like Adrian said,
But
I have
that's
so much
good.
cooking. Yeah, it really, it is good. And I'm trying to like streamline and focus on the things that are, really near and dear and where I feel like I can offer the most, value and insight.
Mhm. Adrian.
Yeah. So what is it like to be with the significant other, or whatever, to be with Alli in this process? Well, it's interesting. It's I was just thinking about principally because also, this transition moment happens with lots of clients of ours. They like
For sure.
they're
Yeah.
headed towards an exit, headed towards an IPO, headed towards selling, whatever. And, we know the conversations that are going to come. And it's a challenge. So anyway, to your question, in any kind of relationship, especially in the early one, you're always, I think you're naturally, and probably wisdom is, you're gauging on who they are and who you are to them. And you're just always collecting data about that because you don't know what the answer is.
Mhm.
And you know what the answer is, and then you know what's happening. And sometimes those are different, right?
Yeah.
So, there was that kind of identity crisis, which is natural once the main object, I was just thinking like, your aim fills and then organizes your life, right? So Alli, as founder of DryBar, that was what filled her life and organized it. And DryBar was up here, top of the, priority.
Mhm.
And that's great. And that in some ways makes a 10-year life very simple, while very complex, very
Sure.
simple, because the aim is really clear. And then once the aim goes, and insofar that like our aim has been creating our identity, because aim is going to create activity, then can feel like it's creating our identity. Once that goes, then it's like, who the hell am I now?
Yeah.
And out of
Without
that
that
comes a whole
clarity.
bunch. That's a big crisis, right? And then I don't know. And then if we're living in reaction to that, then I'm wanting somebody else, wanting something else to answer that question about who I am. anyway, it can get messy. And
Yeah.
it is messy. So, I mean, my aim in all that was to give some space and to believe in her, because there's like lots of that, who am I now? Why aren't they noticing? All those types of natural, because the bowl's not full like it was before. And so why isn't it full, and who should be filling it? And all those types of questions. And, but slowly trusting the process that if she shows up really clear, which she didn't have to be for a long time, like
Sure.
success takes, I mean, once you kind of get momentum, there is this unseen momentum in success, right? And so it seems like it's you, but it's also the thing you've done, and like the ripples come back on the lake or whatever.
Yep.
And then when you're starting from zero, it's a lot harder, and you can internalize that and take that personally, like what's wrong with me, except for, I just don't have this, the system isn't set up the way it was. So like supporting her during her hard times and just aiming at what does she want. I mean, I remember the conversations around board membership, for example, where it started with, I'd like to be on some boards and it's not happening. And then why aren't they contacting me? And then to a conversation we were having about, well, why don't you tell people that that's what you're doing? Or contact 5 people like that. Hey, by the way, I'm looking for positions, and they filled up right away. All the boards, she hates boards, and now she's got a lot. She got what she wanted, and she's like, why did I sign up for these? So
careful what you wish for, right?
I know. It's anyway, I think it's a challenge. And the best you can do is just really kind of be with somebody in that challenge and help them find out what they need that are, I was going to say healthier. There's just a natural thing in the Instagram, how famous am I? How liked am I? Culture, like our dopamine is crafted, is given to us by our significance. Yep. And do people like me? Is it enough? How important am I? And it's a lot based on a lot of comparison, which is, our own demise. So you kind of have to start when you're rebuilding after something great, start celebrating the little things back in.
Adrian, I want to follow up. So we've talked about how Alli has gone through this transition after leaving DryBar and this kind of identity crisis and where we are right now, right?
Yeah.
But you're also building Take New Ground.
Yeah.
And so I'd also look to, what are you looking for as I make this a bigger conversation for anybody out there who's building their company and is also asking a lot of their significant other? What is it that you're looking for from Alli and this perspective? And Alli, how does that then impact you as you guys are kind of, I feel like it's like this juggling act between the two of you is like the image that's coming up in my mind.
Well, so what am I looking for? I want her to champion. I mean, let me back up. What do I think love is? Love is being committed to what the other person's committed to. That's what I say love is. Like if I love Alli, I want to know what her commitments are, and then I'm committed with her to her commitments.
That's big.
That's big. So I want her to know what my commitments are and love them and be a part of that and be there to support that. And then how to do that, there's lots of different ways to do that. I think part of this work-life balance tension that people are in, I routinely don't talk about work-life balance only because it's even set up. The word itself is a zero-sum game. One has more, that means one has less, and it's like a teeter-totter. And so I think the whole framework is problematic. What I aim at, and it isn't a lot different. There's not a lot of difference in the application, but it's different on how I look at what's happening. So I go after work-life integration. So which is, how do I get these things to work together? Like, let's say they can. So if Alli knows my teammates really well, she's more apt to not feel like they're stealing me from her because she actually knows them. And
Alli's got some looks on her face.
I don't know if that's totally true.
So there's no difference. If I'm in a room with Dan all weekend with some entrepreneurs, you don't think that's different than if I was in the room with some dude you've never met?
I don't know if that really matters.
Really?
What?
Interesting.
You know them.
I know, but it's still time away from me.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's an interesting theory.
Well, it's like that for me.
Interesting theory.
So she's not doesn't
So
think
that's
that
your
way.
perspective. There
Oh,
you
for
go.
sure it's mine.
Yeah.
Because I actually care because I guess I live by what I said, which is I'm committed to her commitment. So if she needs to do a call with let's say a CEO of her, well, we did it just the other day, a CEO of one of her companies on a Saturday morning, and she, during like family time.
Mm-hmm.
You know why that works? Because I know that person and I love her and I love that person and I love what they're up to. And so she asked me to come in and help have a conversation there. I'm in like 100%.
So creating that familiarity between work type people with your personal relationship, you feel like tends to kind of potentially bridge that gap a little bit.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think it breaks down kind of some of the walls.
I think so too. I think that I just don't know if it's like, if you're going to be gone all day Saturday and I'm like bummed that you're going to be gone. I don't know that it matters that you're with Chad and Dan just because I know them. Conversely, I feel like, when Chad was just staying here this weekend, it was, and, because you're working with him, but he's also our friend, like there is a comfortability and like, that is that's better than having somebody I don't know at the house. So in that regard, for sure.
That would be my point. So,
but it was interesting, the example you used, because I feel like it has been a struggle for me, which I think I've gotten better at, of like when you're gone for like a weekend working, versus being with me. I'd rather you be with me, but it's what he wants to be doing and it's important to him. So I try to embrace it.
Yeah. People are at all different scales. So for me, I get there really quickly. Like, it's a little bit how we're wired, maybe. Definitely shows up in what we're committed to. So if she needs to be gone for a month to go do something, that would be very hard. But if she wants to do it, I'm in. We'll figure out how to make it work. We'll stay connected. We'll do it as much as we can. I'm 100% in. That gives me a lot of relief. Harder for her because she's not like there. Like that's not your jam. You're not. Hey, we'll find a way. I mean, this is part of the tension, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, oh, let's make it work.
Yeah,
is not the primary thought.
Well, let me ask a follow-up question there. So obviously you guys have done a great job of making a lot work.
That's right.
For any listeners out there, are there any tips that you would give to anybody out there who's, again, like playing this game between relationships and entrepreneurship and trying to figure out how to integrate, how to blend them? Any tips you have for them in terms of how to make it work?
Well, I would say, we do have an extraordinarily complex situation, and that, life's complex for everybody.
Sure.
But to have as much as we've got both going on vocationally, and I'm not comparing myself to anybody else, but just to speak what's here.
Yeah.
Just vocationally, there's a lot of moving parts. And then we've got 4 kids that are all here on different schedules.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bunch. And then we've got exes on both sides that show up very differently. And, then in the season of life we're now, even just today is first week back to school. That's really complex. So first off is just to let it, this is challenging. Like just to
just acknowledge it.
Saying that, like, this is, and, we're in our first year of marriage. That's the next thing. Like, this is real. This is very challenging. So I think that's like the first step, is to get out of the idyllic, how it should be, and get to what it is. And that's what we have to do on a regular basis. Is just because if we get bickery with one another or get distant from one another or get whatever, it's usually we've not slowed down to connect with what's going on for each other and get synchronized in reality. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think before you create anything new, you gotta get connected to here.
Mm-hmm. So name here, slow down, connect to what's currently going on.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's what I'd start with. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah. I think that's a good place to be. I think, I think what I was guilty of in my last marriage and relationship was was avoidance, which is the opposite of what Adrian's saying, is that there's,
me too, by the way, a lot of avoidance. You
can very much go, and it's so easier in fact to go on autopilot and just be distracted. I was largely distracted with DryBar during, the last 10 years, and my kids and all these other things that I wasn't, and shopping and whatever else I was using to like fill the like, oh, there's things that we need to talk about, but we're not.
Yeah.
And I think in just kind of also in the vein of like connection, I think it's like carving out the time, I mean,
Adrian, make the time.
Ironically, Adrian put on our schedule today, us time, when we both had like an hour where we didn't have any calls or meetings or things, and it's just like.
But why did I do that?
Because I told you this morning that I was feeling like far away, that I was like longing.
You didn't say that. You actually
said I was longing for more time together.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
Which is beautiful.
Alli vocalized what she needed. Adrian
right on.
Listened, and then an action was taken.
And even that is like a big deal, to go from the complaint of I'm feeling far away, not a complaint like bad, like we shouldn't do it, but it is let me tell you what's not working. That's easier for the human mind to do because I'm not responsible for it at all. And it's happening outside of me, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
You go to, oh, what I long for is more time with you. That's a bid. That's a, hey.
That's an ask. Yeah.
That's an ask. Really powerful. Immediately I'm looking for time. Oh shit. That's wonderful.
Now I'm closer to finding the solution or solution.
That's right.
And, and that has taken a long time for me to get that kind of like vernacular and communication style down, because I am prone, probably like most people, to just say like, I think I might've even rewritten what I wrote, been like, I want, I think in my mind, I was like, we've had a rough couple of days and we had some stuff going on. And so we were a little not connected. And I think that was partially why I was feeling like that. And my normal go-to would be like, I would probably say something like, I miss you and I feel like we haven't had much time together, which isn't a request to, but more how I would say things versus how I said it today, which was like, I'm longing for more time with you, which was really just the honest. I don't even know if I hadn't looked at our schedule. I didn't know if that was even a possibility. I just wanted him to know that that's where I was,
And I think what's important about that too, is there's no blame. I feel like so often it's like, well, then people get immediately defensive, and then those communication barriers.
Like, you're not making time for me.
Yeah. So there's no blame, and it gives everybody the opportunity there. I want to be mindful of time. I've got a couple more questions I wanted to run by you guys.
Let's do it.
So again, in the name of entrepreneurship and relationships, you mentioned that between the two of you, you have 4 kids. What has that been like, blending your families? And any advice for anyone who's experienced a similar thing?
Oh, a total shit show. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, the kids actually all really love each other.
Yeah,
let's
great.
Start there. It's like the kids.
That's awesome.
There's such a big delta between their ages. Mine are 15 and 17. His are 6 and 8. So what we were able to avoid is where they're all so close in age that it's competitive and weird.
Yeah.
It's like my older kids, well, first of all, they can babysit his kids. They can,
which is amazing.
It's amazing. And they can just like interact and take care of his kids. Like if we want to just go walk the dogs, I remember the first couple of times we left the house alone because my kids were there and we walked our dogs and we're like, this is so weird. We can just walk out of the house. It's such a little thing. So, and his kids really adore my kids and vice versa. So that part of it has been pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's been, and I think, one layer deeper in that, it's been a process, right? So,
right.
Sure, of course.
One of her boys, very outgoing, very playful, just in immediately and got it. The other one takes a little bit more time, just naturally in life, to buddy up to somebody. And, but slowly it has really, they've all fallen in love with each other. So it's like every person, and my one of mine, he's a little slower to go in, and one of mine's all in from the beginning. And anyway, so it's like, it's a process. It's a process for everybody.
So any words of advice for anybody who is navigating blending families?
Oh, wow.
Put your seatbelt
on. I think some of the tension points are, you're blending families, but you're actually blending cultures.
Okay.
right? So she and Cam had a whole culture, which is like just essentially what is culture? Culture is a series of conversations of permissions and some of those are explicit and some of them are implicit, like just assumptions. And then there's like the morality of how things should be and how things shouldn't be. And like what's good and bad in parenting, blah, blah, blah. It's a deep conversation. It's there. And a lot of times it's under the table and it's full of assumptions. And if it's full of assumptions and if it gets challenged, then it comes out as defense. Like, and then one person's better than the other one or whatever. And then, and you're bringing two families together full of that. And then some of that culture can shift right away. And some of that culture is also anchored in the other person that doesn't live with you guys, like the ex or, it's like, so there's a tension there. And there's some of that that's unavoidable. And like, there's some of that you don't have control over is what I really mean. But it ought not be avoided. Like the tension ought to be talked about so that, like, how are we going to relate to this thing is what I mean, is like, so your ex is this way, your ex is this way. How are we going to relate to this thing? And it's touchy because it's like an ex relationship, and that's full of feelings as well. Right. And there's reasons why you guys aren't, there's reasons why you aren't together anymore. So, having a lot of grace for one another in that very, in all those kind of tensions that aren't going away. They're not like problems to solve. They're just tensions to manage over time. And if you could do that shoulder to shoulder, then it feels a lot better than if you're head to head on it.
Yeah. So put it out on the table. And again, I mean, the theme of transparency is coming up again. Yeah.
Yeah. What you don't talk about will eat your lunch. So if the more you talk about it, it gives you an opportunity to integrate with it and engineer with it.
And if you like snacks, then you definitely don't want to be giving up lunch.
That's right. Don't give up lunch.
Switching gears for just a second, because I want to, again, be mindful of time. Alli, earlier this year, you announced that you stepped in as president of Canopy. I just wanted to check in because I think I was there the day before it officially was announced. And I just wanted to see how it's going.
It's going really well. I mean, it's been really,
What is Canopy?
This is the advertising portion of the show. Well, I mean, I can back up and say how and why I even got involved in Canopy. As I was looking for my next kind of opportunity, the next thing I wanted to sink my teeth into, I connected with the founder of Canopy and, was really blown away and surprised, frankly, that, having a humidifier in your bedroom next to your bed 24/7 is incredibly good for not only your skin, but your hair and your scalp. And I didn't know that. And it wasn't, and I don't think it's a natural assumption for people because you think of a humidifier as like, you have it when you're sick or when you have a baby so that, nasal passage is clear, which it is great for that. But, I soon discovered that it was actually incredibly good for your skin to keep it hydrated, which having a Canopy does. And it helps prevent the fine lines and wrinkles and, dryness, frankly, in your skin.
Fine lines and wrinkles. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
let's highlight that one.
Well, and it's, it was this beauty hack that I wasn't even aware of. And when I learned about it and then I started using it, I really did see a difference in my skin and also like, beauty products and all that stuff adheres better too. So I was like, this is pretty fascinating stuff. And why don't more people know about this? And it became this kind of, thing that I got very excited and driven about. And because of obviously my experience in the beauty world and growing a big beauty brand, we all collectively felt like I could really help with with getting the word out and, continuing the charge of, and it's anti-mold and it looks cute and you don't have to throw it away, after a few months, which is really what every single person tells me about their humidifier because they're all, they're not well made and they've created a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Waste?
No, things that are like proprietary to them, that it has like this infrared light.
Original parts and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really innovative company. And it's just, we're just starting to scratch the surface with it. So
nice.
It's been going really well. And, what's also been really exciting is to come in at a company that's not starting from the ground up, but that has, departments already and has a lot of people in place already. And I really
little infrastructure already there.
It's nice. And to come in and be able to like focus on the things that I'm best at, my highest and best use, which is like, creating these connections with the right beauty influencers, the right, retailers, investors, and then just helping spread the word. So it's been nice to be able to extract what I was really good at DryBar and in my career and like apply it here. And that's really the beauty of working for Canopy. Or with
that's
Canopy.
perfect.
So I'm loving it. Yeah.
Good. And Adrian, I know you guys have some fun stuff happening at Take New Ground. So what's going on there?
We do. We have a lot of fun stuff happening. We just finished our first weekend of an event we call Intrepid, which is Academy for Effective Leadership, which is great. We've got some really fast moving entrepreneurs in there. And so a company brought 5 of their people to be involved with that, which is really essentially around how to presence the most effective leadership, which we think comes from a coaching mindset. Like self-mastery, teaming with others, and generating results, which I think any coach that's worth their salt is aiming at those 3 things. But it's always result driven. It's always people oriented, and it's always self-ownership. That's the platform. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's happening, which is really fun. Another where we met, and then where we met the second time, or maybe the third time, but rooms that we've been in together, the Impact Series, which is a collection of founders. We've done smaller rooms, higher price, mastermind type feels. The first 3 of these we've done. This time we're opening it wide open. So really? up to 250 people can come. We're doing a 1-day on Saturday. And then we're having an opportunity, like a VIP session. If you want to come in and do the deeper workshop type work, that's available for about 20 people. But we're having that one. What is it going to be? October 15th and 16th. I think my dates are right, in Los Angeles, downtown. Okay. So that's going to be a blast.
That's awesome.
And Alli always headlines that and generates lots of interest in that. And people love to hear her stories. You can do founder stories and really the honest conversation about what it's like to lead and build a company. What does it really take? Yeah. So if people are listening for that, come and you'll hear it from the horse's mouth or from the beautiful unicorn's mouth.
The beautiful unicorn. Well played.
Yeah. The mystical creature named Alli Webb. But then we've also got where we hung out for 4 days in Nashville last time, the Revenant process that you mentioned, which is, you could tell more about that, but it's like a deep dive. It is a personal leadership deep dive. I mean, I think
it was so intense. I was actually just talking to somebody about it last week, and she was like, "What is it?" And I was like, "I honestly,
it's hard to
all describe. I can tell you is it's an incredible experience."
Yeah.
And so I was like telling her some of like the bits and pieces about it. I was like, I can't, it's like, for 4 days.
Yeah. For 4 days. Yes.
She was like,
there's a lot of that in it. Yeah.
It's like a deep dive into your soul,
Oh, it's like as if
talking about things that you don't ever talk about.
Yeah. It's like Adrian and Dan and everyone else in the room, like, reaches down your throat, pulls out your insides. Everyone has at it. And then everyone, I think, cried at some point. And then all of your insides get put back inside.
Yeah.
And they're like better than before.
Yeah.
And then there's like sunshine beaming out of your heart.
That's great. We'll use that on the website.
You should use that.
We'll use that on the website.
Quote me. You can quote me on that one.
I promise you, I'll reach down your throat, pull out your guts,
the inside,
revitalize them, put them back in, and then here comes the Care Bear view. Yeah, that's great.
The Care Bear,
So anyways, we've got another one of those coming up. And this one's going to be fascinating. It's going to be here in LA. It's going to be the last one at that, it's a very approachable price point. Now we've kept it that way for a long time. We keep getting feedback from everybody. It might even make it better if you charge more, but this is going to be the last one we charge at the lower price.
Okay, cool.
So anyway, that's coming up first week in November. That's wearerevenant.com for folks that want to hear about the gut sucking experience. The Revenant. And the other one is impact.takenewground.com is the Impact series. By the time this airs, the new website will be up about that. If people want to comment, if they have questions, you can hit Kiley up or hit us up. Yeah. It's just fun. We're about to shoot a whole new course with a company called Pareto Labs. We're in conversations about putting together our first book.
Ooh, cool.
It's fun. We've got numerous new consultants that are coming on to the team to help field and then generate even more work. I mean, we're going through a branding process now. We just sit down and did like our own offsite, talking about the vision of the mission and the values of the company and where we're going, and things are really humming. So it's very fun. It's very fun. So for me, I'm in this next season, elevating myself, meaning just doing more of the 30,000 foot view type of work and trying to get out of the trenches as much as possible and streamlining who I work with and who I coach, and spend more time training the folks that are doing the coaching. And then spending more of my time doing what I love doing, which is generating possibilities and meeting with people and helping things get, on the table.
There you go.
So anyway, it's very fun.
Cool.
Thanks for asking.
Okay. I have 2 more questions for you guys, if you have a moment, and we can make these just quick answers and we'll get you out of here.
Rapid fire.
What is something people probably don't know about the 2 of you that is essential to the success of your relationship and your career?
Wow.
We have a lot of sex.
Whoa.
But I say that seriously because I read that somewhere. Sure. I read somewhere that in like one of those things, like what's the key to a great relationship? And the first thing was like having a lot of sex. And I bring that up not to be crass, but more because it is like, it's a connection point, like quite literally, but it is a very like,
that's true.
It's an intimacy. It's obviously a sharing of intimacy that I think, at least for me, was like, not super present in my last marriage or really any of my relationships. I always thought of myself as a very like standoffish, unaffectionate person. And with us, it's very different. And I think that there is a very special, like, hard to quantify connection that happens when you are, when you're
vulnerable like that.
Yeah. So that just hit me.
Wow.
That was very open and honest. Thanks, Alli.
Very unexpected.
Welcome,
Adrian.
Do
you have anything to add to that?
and I think we should do it. It should be even doubled. It should be doubled. I think if possible. If possible.
Well, you guys have already been so successful. When we start to see like really skyrocket, we'll all be like, I know what's happening.
Wow.
I know what's going on.
Is she doing the interview from her bed? Yeah, she doesn't have time to leave. Yeah. What else? What are some other secrets to what works for us? I mean, we've alluded to them. I mean, we have a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
And Alli by nature wants to talk about shit right now. Like talk about it. At least a good majority of the topics she wants to talk about right now, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
I can contain things and let them hang for a lot longer.
I cannot.
Just get it out there. Yeah.
Yeah. She's prone to like, the ready, fire, aim is hers. Which that's really helpful because there's not a lot of time.
Yeah. Just go for it.
And some things do go away over time. Some things fester and get worse. And it takes a while to know which is which. But I say, if you're seeing symptoms of a conversation, then it's just time to talk about it. At least start at the symptoms. Here's what's happening. Here's how I'm feeling. Feelings are always symptoms. Here's how I'm feeling about this thing. I wonder what's really going on here, or,
explore it a bit.
But we do have, for all the things going on, we do spend a lot of time talking. Yeah.
And even just like understanding what is important, to your partner. Like, Adrian knows that I love when he'll leave me a really sweet little note, and it always just makes my day. I think I know like it's important to him when he's going off to do something that I like send him off with like, a lot of encouragement and not like, I wish you weren't leaving, and make him feel like he hates when I do that. He really appreciates when I send him off with like, go have a great day, like, and don't worry about me. I'm good. I think that is like really freeing for him, and so, and it's figuring out what that thing is in your partner that they need, which just kind of goes back to what you were saying in the beginning about like, what you're committed, if you're committed to what that person's committed to, but emotionally, I think that it's really important to lock in and to make that, he does things all the time for me that I'm like, oh, you remember that, just like, I think it's like paying attention,
Yeah.
And I would say too, it's like I think that's a great answer.
Thanks.
And I think, Is it Esther Perel? Esther Perel talked about what's the book? Something Caged Animals. Anyway, she's like a love sex therapist person.
She's amazing.
She's great, Esther Perel. Anyway, she talks about intimacy naturally being an accordion. Like it needs to go out and needs to come in, needs to go out and come in.
Oh, okay.
I'm just picturing it. I'm wise when I've got just like any person, especially if you got a lot going on, you got 15 things going on in your head at the same time. And we're standing together in the kitchen and we're getting the kids out there, blah, 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 blah. If I'm wise enough to like slow down, make eye contact, come in for a genuine kiss, come in for some, genuine loving message in that moment, instead of just like, all right, cool, da, 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 like, just kind of ships in the night. Those little things are the coming back in, even though things are about to whoosh, go back out. But if you like, take a moment and focus, and as she was saying, like be intentional with, even if it's, how long does it take to get connected? Probably about a second if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So people can live in a complaint about how much time they don't have, but it's really intentionality they don't have. So be intentional. You'll find out how you could potentiate the connection time you have.
Potentiate, is that really a word?
Potentiate.
Kylie knows.
I like that word.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, my last question, then I'll let you guys get out of here. What is your greatest insight or discovery about life and entrepreneurship?
Of course, my first instinct is like to say it's really hard, but everybody knows that,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it's really awesome, that it's like, I really love that I don't have to work for somebody else. I really love that I can, carve my own path. I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, at least my experience is that you have to be a person that likes juggling a bunch of things and your mind's all over the place and you're coming up with ideas and you kind of thrive in that environment. I think entrepreneurship isn't for people who want a very I know exactly what I'm doing today. I know what time this is happening, blah, blah, blah. I like the chaos. And I think that's been the biggest insight for me, is that I really thrive in that kind of environment when there's tons of balls in the air. And so I think knowing yourself, and I'm sure there's varying degrees of entrepreneurs, but I think knowing what makes you tick, I think has been the biggest insight for me, of the thing that I enjoy most about it is the craziness of it.
Yeah. Adrian?
I would say, what is the biggest insight of the life of an entrepreneur, or to do both in life?
Greatest insight or discovery about life and entrepreneurship.
Life and entrepreneurship. Between the two. Well, if you're going to be successful, you're going to get less significant over time. And that's really hard. Well, when it's just you, and most people name the initial company after themselves. It depends on what kind of business they've got. But a lot of people have, the Koehler Group or whatever, and it's literally got their name on it. And that works if you're semi-successful. But if you're going to be successful, i.e. a lot more work, a lot more scaling, all of a sudden you can't name it after yourself. That usually doesn't work. And then you're going to build a team, and you're going to want to feel as important as you were before. But if you're great at it, you can't be as important as you were before. And success actually means you're less important over time. Doesn't mean that you don't make an impact. It just means that you're less, if it's still about you, it won't be as big as it could be.
Yeah.
And so there's this tension that I see founders go through all the time, where, Alli talks about it, when you start hiring really smart people, it's freaking tough, because all of a sudden they don't get, hold on, I built this thing and you're really smart and you came from that place, and now you're trying to make this place like that place. Other people get to have voice and all this just kind of stuff. So, if you don't give up what Alli was talking about, what's your highest and best use, don't give that up, own that, and do that at an exponential degree, because you ought to be doing what no one else can do. At the same point, the embracing the humility that if I'm open for other people shining next to me, this thing gets brighter.
I love that. Spot on. Absolutely. I love that. Okay. Thank you guys so much. We'll get you guys out of here. Thank you so much. What's the best place for people to find you if they wanted to get in touch or follow you, etc.?
Probably my Instagram at this point, which is just Alli Webb, ALLIWEBB.
Yeah.
Alli Webb.
Find me on Instagram as well. The handle to my personal coaching websites there, or takenewground.com, is being recrafted as we speak.
Okay.
But they can find me in those places. Adrian.K on Instagram.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll make sure that's in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for everyone listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please go ahead and leave us a review. Adrian and Alli, thank you guys so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Good to
It's
be
so
with
fun.
you. Kylie, you're awesome. Thanks.
Bye.
To continue learning how to better build your business and make your vision a reality, subscribe to the Welcome to Eloma email list at welcometoeloma.com.